I want to show you a photo. This is a picture from Super Mario 64. Do you find this photo unsettling, terrifying even, or maybe just slightly off? It's understandable if you don't. After all, it's just a screenshot from Super Mario 64. Nothing weird about that. At least, until you look a bit deeper. Hello everyone, this is VGTI, and today we'll be talking Mario. Yeah, it's been a while, huh? For those of you who still stuck around all these years later, thanks for that by the way, you might remember the two other videos I did on Mario. Nintendo's flagship series is one rife with mysteries, theories, and lore, and it's something I could do some good deep dives in if I find the time. Today though, we're gonna direct our attention to Super Mario 64. You might already know where I'm heading with this one if you've been hanging around YouTube recommendations long enough. If you haven't though, go ahead and strap in, maybe even turn the lights off. We're going to peel back the layers of SM64 and examine why this innocent little N64 game has become the subject of intense unease and creep factor on the internet in recent years.
Let's go! It's me, Mario! Hello!
Super Mario 64. This game shook the world of gaming when it first released. To this day, you can trace back a lot of video games inspirations from SM64. It paved the way for the popularity of 3D games and platformers as a whole, delighting an entire generation of kids and adults alike who were completely immersed in this growing medium. If any game was bound to build up nostalgia for people, it's this game. The Bob-omb Battlefield, the awkward camera, the little lullaby that plays when you walk by sleeping piranha plants, jumping into paintings. SM64 oozes nostalgia from every pixel, and, well, Nintendo knows it. Now, look, to be fair, SM64 has been re-released a few different times. Love you, Virtual Console. Rest in peace. But this collection seemed huge. Mario's 3 big 3D outings all on Switch? How could one say no? Oh. I guess that's how. Thanks to Nintendo's, icky timed release strategy, I went ahead and picked the All-Stars collection up. FOMO sucks, and I couldn't miss out on having these 3 games on even more platforms. SM64 has never been my particular favorite of the bunch, but I still like the game a lot, and appreciate how important it is to gaming's history. It was one of my first games as a kid, so every time I replay it, it hits me with a new wave of nostalgia. 3D All-Stars released in the latter half of 2020, but now we need to rewind some more. 1 year back from that, to late 2019. SM64 is a game that has always held an abundance of rumors and theories. Like, just take a look at Ella's Reel. This theory was one of the earliest ones to exist for this game, and it didn't get a proper conclusion until recently thanks to the Giga Leak. Older games like these always generate fascinating theories, thanks in large part to existing in a time before the internet was really truly a thing. Your friend would tell you this secret thing they found in their game, or their friend told them about something, and you're just some 8-year-old at recess who's eating all this stuff up like a nice hot bowl of rice. All of these theories and mysteries, these playground stories, these rumors, they all carry forward to present day. They perpetuated in our minds, which might explain why, in late 2019, a story began spreading about a supposed Wario apparition that could appear in random copies of SM64. The popular image being spread around of this apparition was, well, this. It certainly looks nice and spooky, but this photo actually comes from a 1996 E3 video in which Charles Martinet speaks as Wario to the viewer.
This is terrible. Boy, who would buy stuff like this anyway? Oh, what? You think this is fun? You gotta be cuckoo crazy. You want fun? Wario show you fun.
Still, it was a fun, creepy story while it lasted. But then 2020 rolled around. With it came the coronavirus pandemic, forcing a large majority of people to stay indoors while the world figured out this deadly new virus. It's probably no coincidence that around this time, in the spring of 2020, the SM64 rumor mill began circulating more and more. It eventually led to this well-known iceberg theory image for SM64, compiling together all the different theories and mysteries surrounding this one video game. Rest assured, Wario apparition was here too, but where it got truly strange was the theory at the deepest, darkest part of the iceberg, all the way at the bottom. Every copy of Mario 64 is personalized. With this one line, SM64's creepiness really began to take hold in the public consciousness. It seemed like a pretty phony story, trying to sell the reader on the idea that Nintendo used an experimental AI that would alter everyone's personal copies of the game to be slightly different from each other. These alterations were supposedly subtle, subconscious changes that would tailor the game to you personally and study your behavior. While this all sounds incredibly far-fetched, the theory gained a lot of traction due to one thing: everyone's memories of SM64 slightly differing from one another. In a way, this phenomena looked a lot like a Mandela effect, but for SM64. It's an old game, so it's not out of the question various people remembered the game differently than others, even if just slightly. It was enough to make people wonder, enough to make you question if it could really be true. Even if it wasn't true, it begged the question, why is Super Mario 64 such an unsettling game to begin with? After all, it's not as if it was particularly unsettling when we played it as kids. Even things like the infamous piano or the underwater eel, those were all just scary for the sake of being scary. But play SM64 nowadays, and you might be hit with this creepy sinking feeling, the kind that gets under your skin. What is this? Where is this coming from? The answer can be found in a real-world concept known as liminality. Around the same time as the personalized SM64 stories, another topic was making its rounds around the internet. You might have seen images like this one before, or this one, or something like this. Pictures like these are known as liminal spaces. If that doesn't sound familiar, people have also referred to them as places that feel strangely familiar. But what are these liminal spaces anyway? Liminality, at least if you want an exact definition, is a state of transition between one stage and the next. This can refer to a lot of things, like a literal transition, or a more metaphysical one, like the transition from childhood to adulthood, one emotion to another, etc. Liminal spaces, then, are simply places or photos that evoke this feeling. Pictures like these might fill you with a weird sense of nostalgia or unease when you look at them. But why is that? And why do they feel so familiar? Well, a lot of smarter YouTubers than I have tackled this question from left and right. Essentially, the weird vibes these spaces give off stem from the feeling of nostalgia they evoke. They're general places, which is why they feel familiar. It's not helped by the fact that there are never any people or animals in these photos, making them feel lonely, isolated, and completely removed from their context. That's your crash course on liminal spaces, but what about Mario? As you might have guessed, the two are related. You see, SM64 is an old game. As I mentioned, the level of nostalgia you feel when you play it is bound to be pretty intense. It's the same sort of familiar nostalgia you feel when looking at a liminal space. Combine that with Mario 64's bizarre textures, empty rooms, and general retro feel, and you can see why the game starts to feel so unsettling. The same way a liminal space would. A great example of this feeling is found in Wet Dry World, a level that completely beats Boo's Big Haunt nowadays in terms of creepiness. When Nintendo made Wet Dry World, they were going for a sort of underwater city vibe. This is found pretty blatantly in the level itself, with a downtown area consisting of fairly normal-looking buildings, a church, and of course, no humans in sight. To make this all even more unsettling, Wet Dry World's skybox is a real-world image taken from Shibam, a town in Yemen. You can see it fairly distinctly in certain areas throughout the level, Just this ominous-looking abandoned town with dark windows underneath the water of the level. Nintendo chose this to go for that underwater city look, so I doubt they intended for it to be as creepy as it is, but something about the juxtaposition of a real-life Middle Eastern city splashed onto a level of a retro Mario game from my childhood just makes me feel really off. It's because of these similarities between Mario 64's environments and liminal spaces that you're bound to feel a high level of liminality as you play. That idea of transition only sinks in further as you're playing a game from your childhood, but as a full-grown adult, only making the contrasting feelings more intense. As far as the theory for this video goes, that's why I think Mario 64 is as creepy as it is, and where all of these creepy stories and urban legends stem from. Mario 64 isn't even the only game hit by these weird vibes. Just take a look at empty source maps in games like Half-Life, TF2, Gmod. Liminal spaces are abundant in virtual areas like these, with no sign of life anywhere. Just you in an empty lobby, an empty city, an empty test chamber. This crap's enough to keep you up at night if you think about it too much. I feel as if, over time, older games from our childhoods are developing this way more and more. As our nostalgia grows for these classic titles, so too does the feeling that everything is different, off, a noticeable change from when you played these games as a kid. You don't really feel that in modern titles, though it may be too soon to say. While newer games aren't old enough to evoke this sort of nostalgia, there are some more recent examples that still have liminal spaces throughout, such as Remedy's Control. In all honesty, liminality is something I don't think we can escape. Rather, it's just a sign of our, well, being human, and a reminder of the way things were when we grew up. Oh man, this video got a little heavy. Check out Low Poly Mario. He looks pretty funny, right? Oh, that's creepy too. Damn. So, anyway, let's move right along. Every copy of Mario 64 is personalized. While I don't think it's some super secret AI that adapts to you as a person, I do think, in a way, Mario 64 is personalized, insofar as we all feel our own way when we play it. The game might be the same for everyone, but our own context shapes what the game is for us, and honestly, there's a weird kind of beauty in that. A lot of us are likely adults now, with our own changing lives, constantly busy with work or schooling or whatever else is going on any given week. But Mario 64 and all the other games we grew up with, they didn't change. They're still here to give us a good time, even if the way we feel when we play them is a new alien experience. That's the heart of this theory, if that's what you want to call it. But what do you guys think? You, the viewer. What was your experience with Mario 64, and does it feel unsettling to you in the same way it does to others? What about other older games? I'd be fascinated to read your experiences. For me, personally, I've become pretty fascinated by the concept of liminal spaces, especially when it comes to video games. I too felt that same weird unease when playing through SM64 again all of these years later. So, to be able to do a video on this topic, well, it was a lot of fun. A good way to vent out this weird thing that a lot of people seem to be feeling. I'm not even sure if it's a theory per se, but it does involve urban legends, so it was close enough for me. With that said, that's all for me today, everyone. Before I go, I do have one important announcement to make. I finally took the plunge and decided to set up a Patreon for the channel. When it comes down to it, I don't have as much time to make YouTube videos as I would like. I figured this way, if any of you would like to support me on there, it might help motivate me to produce videos more often. Really, it all just comes down to time. That's why I changed my old upload schedule from semi-weekly to whenever I feel like it. The same schedule will still apply, and for that reason, those of you who support me on Patreon won't be charged monthly, but rather just whenever I'm able to get out a video. With all that said, you can find the link to my Patreon in the description of this video as well as on my channel. It's no pressure whatsoever. I know times are tough. But if you are able to support the channel in any way on there, I would be really grateful. You'll get access to rewards like behind the scenes content, your name in videos, and various other goodies. Anyway, I'm gonna go make a nice hot coffee and maybe play some more Mario games. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments, and if you're new around here, consider subscribing. It means the world to me. I upload whenever and talk about, well, weird stuff like this. Got something you want me to cover? Just let me know. I'll be back with another video here soon, returning to an old favorite topic and a game that I've been dying to get my thoughts out on. Bye for now.